All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Curry, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. This segment is called Michael's Magic Moment. It's my opportunity to play a little snippet from one of our previous episodes, which resonated with our listeners, that I received feedback from, or I felt really had an impact on some people's lives. Hope you enjoy it. All right, you know I love my analogies. Today, I'm going back to an episode where I talk about skydiving and I compare it to investing. Now, for me, it's a big deal making this comparison because I would never skydive and I'm scared of skydiving. I've got a fear of heights and skydiving is probably one of the last things that I'll ever do. But this episode was recorded off the back of a conversation I had with a client where I came up with the analogy and I hope you enjoy. Skydiving is very similar to investing. Now, hear me out. Skydiving, yes, I'm scared of it. I'll never do it. That's just me. But just looking at it, taking my emotion out of it for a second, skydiving is not as dangerous as a lot of people think, and neither is investing. Now, of course, there are risks, and there are a way to manage those risks. And I thought, you know what? Let's pull up an article about the precautions that are used when it comes to skydiving, and let's compare it to investing. So I've got the article open up at the moment, and I literally have not even read this article yet. It's got some dot points, which is what I've seen, but I'm going to go through them as I'm through this recording, and I'm going to compare it to investing, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I think it compares. So first of all, it says prepare yourself mentally. Investing is very, very similar to skydiving from this point of view, because when it comes to investing, it's very important to prepare yourself mentally that there is going to be a risk, for example, that there is, and that the experience may not go as planned, but also the fact that you need to understand and maybe ask yourself why you're scared of investing, and just understand that if you followed all the precautions, if you followed the things that need to be followed, all you can do is your best. Nobody has a crystal ball, and just to be prepared mentally to know that when it comes to investing, you know, no one knows where things are going to go. Now, obviously, you do your research and you put precautions in place, and this is where the next couple of steps come in. The second one, it says low fatality rate. So it just gives some stats here about in the US, that there are numbers just to show how safe it actually is. Let's talk about investing. Now, with investing, we can't say there's a low fatality rate because there are people that have invested their money and, you know, they've made decisions which they probably shouldn't have made. But my angle with this is as a client, if you're getting advice from a financial advisor and the advisor is recommending investments that they feel confident in, then it should give you some confidence knowing that, you know what, like there's a lot of other people that invest in these things and they've done okay for the last 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. And as an advisor, and I know many, many advisors, I don't recommend that follow this as well. I don't recommend anything unless I'm personally comfortable with it, unless it's something that I would invest my money into. And there's a lot of compliance in this area, but I personally do my research into anything that I recommend to my clients. And I recommend things that I feel very confident in. So when it comes to low fatality rate, just to really understand that people have been investing into shares, property, all these different things for many, many, many years. And most people actually do well out of it, especially those that make educated decisions and have a strategy. What to wear. So here they say what to wear when at first time skydiving, what to wear. Here we go. Close fitting athletic clothing with lace up comfortable. Okay. What to wear? How do we relate this to financial planning? So I think what to wear, the first thing that just probably, I think for me that comes to mind is thinking, what tools are you going to use? You know, when it comes to getting financial advice, are you going to speak to just one advisor? Are you going to talk to a couple of advisors? Are you going to do your own research? How prepared are you going to be going into this experience? Further to that, what platform is that advisor recommending, or what platform are you choosing to invest in? Because you can invest in shares or managed funds or ETFs in many different platforms. It could be the same share, the same investment option, but that option is available on many different platforms. So what are the platforms? What is going to be the platform that you feel is best for you, or that your advisor recommends to you? And in these situations, we look at fees, we look at features, reliability, customer service, so many different things. But what is the vehicle that you're going to use going through this investment experience? The next one is what to eat. Okay, now this is really testing my creativity. This is when it comes to food intake before skydiving. Eat a light, nutritious meal before arriving at the drop-off zone, so you have enough energy, but you haven't eaten too much. Okay, I get this. And strictly avoid alcohol, narcotics, up to 24 hours before your skydiving experience. Okay, so what to eat, being prepared. For me, when I think about this, again, when you do skydiving, there's things that you need enough energy, but at the same time, you need to avoid certain foods. I'd probably say be careful of who you get your information from. Now, if you get information from different places, it's great to do research yourself, but you need to be careful who you're actually talking to. If you're talking to a friend on a Sunday afternoon at a barbecue, if you're just Googling things or looking through Facebook groups where everybody's an expert investor, you need to be very, very careful what you take in with that experience. You know, what you take from that, into your investing experience, because there's a lot of good information out there, but there's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of biased information. And not just that, what may suit one person usually doesn't suit another. So it's very important to make sure that you're being careful with where you're getting your information from, so that when you go through this investment experience, you are armed with the right information that's relevant to you, that's correct, and information that is going to put you in a better position. Another one is learn more. This one's a big one. I like this one. So with anything we do, the more education that we have, the more exciting any experience is going to be, whether it's skydiving. This article talks about having experience with skydivers, their knowledge, shared information. Okay, so it talks about just getting tips from others, talking to others that have done it before. But just education when it comes to investing, it's so important to just do your research. Look at what markets have done for the last 30 years. Look at what that investment option has done for the last 30 years. Look at what the market's doing at the moment, what it did yesterday. Look at trends. Really understand what you're investing your money into. I get very, very edgy when people decide to just invest into things that their friends told them about, which they don't even understand, because that can go both ways. And it's like taking medication. It's like anything. If you don't understand it, or you don't know why you're doing it, be very, very cautious. And learning more can just be the education, just understanding share markets. How do they work? Why do they go up? Why do they go down? What things can the government implement that can affect share markets? What are trends that we see? What time of the year are you investing? All these things, just to really understand what you're actually investing in. The other thing as well that's really going to help, and this sort of goes back to the low fatality rate, is just to understand when it comes to, again, share markets, etc., what regulation is in place as well to stop dodgy things being out there, dodgy investment schemes, and stopping companies from doing dodgy things. Now, you're never going to avoid this. Like, there's always going to be people doing the wrong thing. But the share market, for example, financial advice in general, is very, very regulated. There's a lot of regulation to keep bad eggs out of the industry, but also to make sure that, but minimize the risk of something dodgy being out there, or something, or investing your money into something where there's no accountability and there's no one there being held accountable for their advice, or for putting a product out there, or a share, or a company, or a CEO of a company making bad decisions. So again, it's always going to happen, but there is a lot of regulation. There's a lot of compliance out there, which should give you a lot of peace of mind before you decide to skydive or invest. And the last one, it says length of a skydive. So on average, skydiving experience lasts for about 5 to 6 minutes. Of this, approximately 40 to 50 seconds are spent free falling, while the remaining 4 to 5 minutes involve a parachute ride down. Mentally prepare to spend as much time on the air, and don't try to rush the process. Okay, so Length of a skydive. This is literally the best way to finish off my points here. When it comes to investing, it's very, very important to understand your investment time frame. What do I mean by that? When I speak to somebody that has money they want to invest for 6 months, I'm going to recommend something very, very different when we're talking about 6 years or 20 years. And in these situations, we look at someone's investment time frame and we recommend appropriate investments. For example, usually you don't invest money into shares or property that you need in 6 months because share markets go up and down. The property market goes up and down. Usually that investment time frame is 5 to 7 years plus. The other thing as well is just really understanding what markets have done over time and what that time frame looks like to you as well, and the amount of risk that you're being exposed to. Now, one of the questions that we go through with our clients is their risk profile. We ask them a list of 7 questions usually to work out what type of investors they are. Are they high risk, low risk, balanced, growth, conservative, moderate? Like, where do they sit along that spectrum? Because you've probably heard this before, but the higher the risk, the higher the return. And the lower the risk, the lower the return. So it's a general rule of thumb that we use and that most people go by. And when it comes to investing, understanding the length, the time that you're investing in, and just really knowing, okay, based off this time frame, how much risk am I willing to expose myself to? How much risk am I willing to tolerate? How much risk am I comfortable with? You might be super comfortable with risk, but even if your investment time frame is 6 months, you might think twice about investing into something super risky. So all in all, I think these points really, really summarize the point that I was making with this client, a few months ago, and that I'm making in this episode, that skydiving is very, very, very similar to investing. It's very different, obviously, but it's very similar in that if you just consider the factors that are around you, if you understand it, and you have a bit of an idea around the ins and outs, and especially if you speak to an expert and get advice from an expert, it's not as scary as it sounds. And you might be listening to this, and I can guarantee that most people listening to this have thought about investing but don't know where to begin, or they know what they want to invest in, but they're just too scared to take that step. I encourage you to reach out to me, reach out to an advisor, reach out to someone to get qualified advice just to understand it a bit more, so that next time when you are ready to make that step to go and skydive or invest, you're making an educated decision so that you can take the jump, take the leap, and start your investing journey. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.